Welcome to Mayak Innovatsiy, the podcast of UnitCity dedicated to innovation. From Ukraine to the world. Привit, I am Dominique Piotet. I'm French and American, and after 16 years in Silicon Valley and a few other places in the US, we will discuss about it in a second. I decided to move to a vibrant and wonderful, but yet mostly unknown tech scene, Kiev, Ukraine. I'm the CEO of UNIT.city, the first Ukrainian smart city dedicated to innovation. And if you want to know more about UnitCity, well, you just go online and you type UNIT.city in a good web browser, right? Easy. And our guest this week is a little bit like me. But he's an American who loves Ukraine and who actually moved here to grow his company. And that's interesting because I think Andrew, because it's his name, Andrew Archer, is kind of your typical Silicon Valley geek. Let me share a bit actually of his LinkedIn bio. Andrew Archer is a serial entrepreneur with a focus on artificial intelligence and robotic systems. He began building robots at the age of 12. Silicon Valley geek. And subsequently started his first company at 16, producing Wi-Fi connected motors controllers for robotic before even IoT existed. So I love this. Already, I love this. Then his passion for robotics have been spanned in many fields, including military, medical, automotive, automated warehousing, robotics parking. Anyway, after several companies, Andrew decided to move to Ukraine. Actually, he also lived in Las Vegas, where I lived. So actually, and we've never met each other. It's crazy. We have to move to Ukraine to meet the cool people. So Andrew Archer, among other things, is the CEO of a company called AITHEON, which is a business automation platform helping business leveraging artificial intelligence, process automation, and distributed robotics. I mean, this sounds complicated, but you will see this is not that complicated. And actually, that really just makes me dream. Andrew, hello.
Hi.
Hi. We're super happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
I want to know everything about your passion from robotics. Where does it come from?
Oh, man. It actually comes from a specific place. So I was I was a bad kid in school, like most entrepreneurs. And I was sitting in suspension. Because I had done something wrong, hyperactive, crazy. And I saw on Time magazine, they had the Sandra robot, right? And that's the only thing I had in study hall for like 8 hours. In the suspension for 8 hours in school. So I'm just looking at this and I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is actually cool. This is before anyone thought like, oh, I'm going to go build the robots. This is a long time ago. And the only people really building robots was NASA. And so everyone kind of thought like, you're just crazy. No one builds robots. Only NASA builds robots. And so I just decided to do it.
And there you go.
Never stopped. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Tatiana.
And what details have you used? I mean, maybe did someone help you with that?
No. So there was nothing. There was literally nothing. That was the crazy part about it back then. Like, it was even before, like, there's different robot operating systems, but like nothing existed at that time. So I literally just went to Barnes and Noble. Like it's a bookstore in the United States. It's like a chain, right?
And they still are in business.
They still are in business.
That's a chain that surprisingly, Amazon didn't kill them completely.
Yeah, yeah, which is very surprising. Yeah. And so I just I literally read every engineering book they had. And so I went through mechanical, electrical, because there was no such thing as robotics, because the robotics really encompasses all engineering practices. And so I just sat there for my entire youth and just read these books, like from front to back, pretty much, yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about your current company, AITHEON. What are you What are you building now?
Yeah. So what we're doing is right now, I'll explain a little about the state of business,
Yes.
right? And what happens in business right now is you start a business, you get a bunch of different pieces of software, whether it's accounting, your sales software, all of these different pieces, right? And you try to connect them. And it always goes disastrously. Like it never pulls all the correct data. It's very expensive and there's no really way to make it better, except if you have your own development team. And so what we set out to do is really make this a way where you could take our platform and graphically connect either our software, other external third-party software, and not only connect all of the systems together, but then infuse machine learning, artificial intelligence in all of these things and start capturing data as the company is operating, and we kind of give life to the company. It can actually start to learn and evolve on its own. So the company starts thinking, right? And that's really how the platform works. So the company optimizes, starts assigning things to employees, changing route even of how to do different things. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Andrei? Right?
Tell me why you decided to move to Ukraine. Was it just for raw manpower to power your company? Or was it something different? Because I imagine that was a cornerstone decision.
Yeah, it was a huge decision.
Absolutely. So why?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. So I was living in San Francisco for some time. And then they had changed some rules about mobile robotics. I do a lot with mobile robots, like robots that navigate around. And they changed some testing rules. And I said, they just made it very difficult to test at all. And Nevada came along and was like, hey, Tesla just moved here. Why don't you guys move here too? We'll give you incentives and help you solve this testing problem. So then I moved to Las Vegas, and which is odd because you lived in Las Vegas too.
Yes, at the same time. And
yeah,
that's San Francisco before.
At the same time. Strangest thing.
Mm-hmm. We know the same people.
And you never met?
No, we never met.
Because you're not into robotics.
Well, I guess so.
I think maybe it's just, Las Vegas is a little strange.
Not about robotics.
Well, I guess we didn't went to the same party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's.
I guess it's a drinking problem more than no.
Yeah. Except
Never mind.
Never mind.
Except we both went to level 23 in the Mandarin Oriental.
Exactly. But you lived in Mandarin Oriental.
Yeah, I did, but I don't know how we didn't run into each other.
I know, it's weird.
It's weird. We're in the same places.
So you moved to Nevada?
Yeah.
Right after Dominique? No.
It's the same period.
Same exact period, yeah.
That's what I figured.
And so then, we were testing some autonomous vehicle stuff, and around that time, it was Uber that had the accident. And then, again, the rules changed. And I wasn't really happy. I couldn't find the teams I wanted to work with. I was having a lot of problems finding inspiration there. All of my other friends left the country. They said they were done. Silicon Valley started to dry up. It's like corporate now. It doesn't have the fire it used to have. And
I
so
200% agree. And that's also why I left.
Yeah. And so I decided, I need to find a place with people like me, right? And so I started traveling around the world. I went to Singapore, Hong Kong, ended up in India for a long time on a different project. And then I was in Dubai, and then one of our lead devs lived in Ukraine, in Kyiv. And I said, I'm going to come visit you on my way back to New York, right? So I flew in middle of the night, into Kyiv, and I already felt like I was driving down Kreshadek, and it was just I don't know what it was about the street, but I'm like, this place is cool. I really felt good here. And then the next day and the next 2 months, 3 months, I just didn't leave, and I just loved it here. I loved the people, the atmosphere, the tech scene. Everyone, it has so much passion here. Like, they're fired up about what they're working on, and they're just like after it. You know what I mean? They're just really going for whatever it is they're doing. And so I just never left. That was it. I'm like, this is my new home. I'm here.
It's so funny because it's almost the same thing that happened to me. Like, I go to UnitCity, go to Kyiv for the first time in my life. I go to UnitCity. I'm like, Jesus, I'm home. I love it here.
Yeah.
I love it here.
Yeah.
I belong.
Exactly.
You know?
That was the exact feeling. And
Yeah.
I've never left.
So you guys did not do any kind of research
No.
or just flew in
intuition.
and stayed? So
Yeah.
it was a hands-on experience. That's what I see.
Well, I have a family, so I had to do some selling back home. So I had to do some research, but I mean,
Amazing. And for how long are you staying here?
I've been here 2.5 years now.
It's just like me, because I moved in 2018 in April,
Yeah.
probably 2-3 months right after you moved in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
There's
Yeah.
Tatiana.
And how did you find UnitCity? Someone has recommended.
Yeah, someone told me about it. And so the first time I came to UnitCity was around the time I just came here. And there was not much there yet. They didn't have any space at that time. It was still very small, but it was very cool. Like, I saw the growth potential. I could feel it, right? It was like what Silicon Valley was before, right? People were really active. One of the first places I went was the Fab Lab. And I love building things. Like, I just love building things. So to see that and the extensive equipment they had and things like that, I just knew that this place is going to grow rapidly, right? And
you have a production.
Yeah.
You produce hardware in your
Yeah,
company.
we build robots here.
Where do you do that? In China, in Ukraine? I mean, physically.
Yeah, in Ukraine. Yeah. So I was actually there today. So we have in Zhytomyr, so we actually build some in UnitCity, but the heavy industry parts are in Zhytomyr. And so out there, we've partnered with 2 companies. One was like an old agriculture / like tank component company, like super heavy industry. They call the factory the Bear because it's just like hardcore, And they're doing all the laser cutting and bending. We're even making gears. All right, we were buying gears before in China, and we couldn't get them. And they're like, "Hey, we've got this equipment over here, and we can make sprockets." And so we started playing with it. This was this week even, and now we're making gears. It's just crazy stuff.
But actually, what kind of robots are those?
Yeah, they're autonomous. They're like they call them AGVs, but for our purposes, it's basically small robots that can navigate around buildings, warehouses, things like that. And so those were our first products. So we're doing really large warehousing projects, like similar to like Amazon Robotics type things.
Okay.
And we recently actually just launched these medical robots for COVID. And so now we have these disinfection robots that can go into rooms and use different types of UV light and sanitize all the surfaces. They're very cool. Yeah.
And do you have an assembly plant, or do you just outsource everything
For
the robots?
outsource
Just-
which part?
Like everything, all the components and details?
No,
or
we build it. So all of our engineers are in-house, and
Yeah.
they work directly with our partners in Zhytomyr. So we almost try to exclusively build everything in-house.
So you're an engineering company and you outsource the actual manufacturing process.
Some of it. Of
Okay.
it. Whatever we can't do in our office in UnitCity, we do outside. So like we can't fit, a 8 kilowatt laser in our office in UnitCity.
I'm sorry.
They would probably kill us if we put that in there.
Kill you,
Okay.
no, because we love you guys, but we would have a conversation.
So, but other than that, all of our parts come into UnitCity, and we have we created a space there just to build these things. So we're actually getting equipment that's will come. I think our new space in the other building will be ready this November. Yeah. And we're building electronics there. So we will get the blank circuit board, and our robots will be, you'll be able to look through the glass right next to the chimney.
Yep.
And see robots putting electronic components on boards for robots.
Wow.
I'm so
In
excited.
UnitCity.
I'm so excited. I think I'm going to move my chair from my office and just sit in front of you guys.
No. You
No.
won't move your chair
okay.
because Yezhik will come and will help you. And I want to comment because one of the robots your company produces is called Yezhik or Yezhik.
Yezhik, yeah.
Yezhik. It's made for lifting, handling, moving, unloading materials.
Yeah.
So it's used in warehouses. And I have a quick and philosophical question.
Sure.
So, why isn't it still not deployed in the airports? I mean, in terms of workers in the airports are still throwing our luggage, and Yozhik could help.
So that's...
It could do that in a more delicate way.
Yeah, it completely could. And that really is, a robotics perception issue. So like in airports and some facilities, there's a lot of unions. And so we actually dealt with this a lot when we worked in automotive. To get robots into certain applications like that, you have to work with unions and trade labor unions and all of these committees and all of these things. And so oftentimes they'll just purposely not adapt it just because they think somehow that it's going to save jobs or something along those lines, when really there's so many workplace injuries. Like you're talking about throwing luggage. People get hurt all the time because the bags are so heavy and all these things, where they can actually, it doesn't displace the people, it actually aids them, right? To do more work, to do heavier work, things like that, or prevent, keep them out of harm's way. And so it's just a lot of, people are scared of robots. They, scared of robots.
And by the way, how in marketing your team is communicating this message that you do not replace humans, that you are helping humans in robotics?
So we show we try to show how they amplify your work, like collaborative work with robots, like in warehousing, you can do certain parts of it and the robot is working with you to do those parts. Like you organize the goods and the robot will take them somewhere. So we try to show examples where it really amplifies the humans. And same with our AI platform, like we're using natural language for the AI to communicate with the humans to accomplish some task, right? Versus direct replacement. So
we're going to move further in that route of philosophy, and you'll see in a second. But first, it's a tradition in the podcast. It's time to ask our guest about, okay, what song are you listening right now? What is your song now?
Yeah. So I was looking, and on the way here, I was listening to Skrillex, Breaking a Sweat. And I don't know if you guys know about how that song was made.
Nope.
So are you familiar with the Doors?
Of
right?
course.
Of course. Everyone knows who the Doors are. And so they came together with Skrillex to make this song. And so they took basically their older generation style music and mixed it with his to create this new, what the song is, right? This electronic song. And what I really enjoyed about that song was the idea that I spent the day in this old Soviet war factory, like agriculture thing, except we're like bringing in this super cool high tech new age technology and then combining it. And it's really a cool reflection of that.
And I would like to open the conversation to something in your LinkedIn profile that I was like, that's interesting. You're saying that Andrew believes in the symbiotic nature of robotics and people. And it's an interesting conversation because I remember when I was in Silicon Valley, I was fascinated by people like Ray Kurzweil and Singularity University and all those conversation around, okay, how are we going to basically maybe merge one day and robots is going to help us, and maybe at one point actually we're going to download our conscience in the cloud and have a new body and download our conscience, and we're going to be immortal. And I had actually had a really good conversation with Ray Kurzweil on that topic. But okay, tell us more about this.
Yeah, really, the consciousness part is a whole long discussion. But really, my idea is that robots and humans can work together to accomplish a task, or even AI, where it can optimize you, right? I think that people that are thinking that it's more of it's here to take over us, it's a wrong approach, right? Because if you think about like phones when they first came, right, or even computers when they first came, everyone said, "Oh, this is going to take my job. This is going to end everything," right? It's just the end. But really, then it created entirely new industries, new jobs, new ideas, entertainment, all of these different things, right? It really grew us as a species. And I think that robotics and AI can be seen as the same way, where we can really amplify not only what we're doing, but eventually like integration, like ourselves, right? You look at like Neuralink, Elon Musk is working on things like this. And I think we should be really looking towards it as that versus it trying to be a replacement of us or things like that.
And what always strikes me when I look at the work of Singularity University is the timeline. It's very short. Like they view this our very near future.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Well, I think that it's certainly. See, this is the problem with a lot of AI and robotics is no one is really sharing what they're doing. Right? So it's very hard to tell what exactly progress has been made, what people are doing. People are very secretive about it. And I think there's people using it with like, genetic alterations, things like that. So it's really hard for me to say when what will happen. But I think we're very close to a lot of things being run by AI and robotics. Well, not so much robotics. We already see robotics in industry, right? But the AI part, I think we're already interacting with AI in different ways that we don't even know yet. And a good example of that was when Google released kind of their cognitive speech analysis, right? They had been making phone calls and having conversations with people, ordering appointments and food and things like this, and no one even knew that it was happening, right? So I think it's not even, maybe it's not even in the future. It's here. We just don't know.
Oh yeah, we were talking already about the editor-in-chief. AI editor-in-chief who has written a magazine and a composer of music, and, and people could not distinguish if this is a human written song composed or a robot behind that.
I really want to continue this discussion. Do you think that robots or AI for that matter need to be conscious? Or do they need to be just a collection of algorithms?
This is a great question.
Because humans could be viewed as just a collection of, not a collection, but a bunch of algorithms running through our heads, running through our bodies on a very, very micro, nano level.
Yeah.
So do we ever need an AI or a robot to be conscious, or just...
I actually love this discussion because it brings up the idea of like, what is consciousness in the first place, right? Because like you said, technically, like us as humans, we're a collection of experiences, and that is what defines our judgment or our actions, right? Well, obviously, we have a base, a genetic.
Everything is
genetic,
algorithmic.
Right?
Everything is algorithmic.
Yeah, and so it really, I don't think we understand, well, we don't understand consciousness, right? And that's why we can't make a robot or an AI particularly have consciousness, I think. But
We don't know what it is.
right, like how do you define consciousness? Like
I don't know.
Like how do you know you're
I
even
don't know.
conscious? Right? Like but I think generally what we could perceive consciousness as is exactly how you said it, a collection of either neural networks and algorithms. And that's actually how we designed our platform, is it literally is a collection of neural networks, algorithms that use adversarial learning and learn from the people they're interacting with. And so that's how we got to where we were with business automation.
So do you think that there will ever be a time in our history when AI or robots will be so powerful algorithmically, not consciously, to take over? Because those algorithms will be so way better than we are, than our algorithms.
Yeah.
That they will just take over and not knowing that they're taking over.
Yeah. So I've been asked this question before, and sure they could, okay, but the fundamental issue I think is context and intent, because first they have to have a reason to.
Like, will they want to take over?
Yeah, like, so you have context, which would be like, what is existence is context, right? And then intent, I want to take over. But you have to have why I want to take over. Like, there has to be some intent. And I don't think AI can shape that, right? It has to be influenced somehow. And so really the better question is, will someone leverage AI and give it the intent to take over and do mass destruction? Probably. I mean, It's very likely, right?
Well,
I mean,
if we don't manage to
Yeah.
do mass destruction ourselves by killing our planet
Yeah.
with our crazy emissions and stuff like
it's
that,
the same
right?
thing,
Right.
right? We had an intent and there was a resultant damage. And so someone will probably use it for such, right?
I would like to. Yeah, we all want to ask questions. Yeah. I would like to come back a little bit to Ukraine, actually.
Yeah.
Because I mean the level of knowledge and conversation and interaction on those topics you can have in Silicon Valley, for
Yeah.
example, is really high.
Yeah.
Like you really talk to the smartest people in the planet
Sure,
on those
yeah.
topics. Are you frustrated here, or do you still have those conversations, or do you feel still find the level of the geeky techie people you work with actually is what you need?
Yeah, I mean, I think our office is kind of unique. We have like a really crazy bunch of engineers, crazy guys. So our conversations are kind of like the ones we're having now. We're always theorizing these ideas. But outside of our office, I think that's one thing that is still developing in Kyiv. Because I remember when I lived in San Francisco, I get out of the office and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on, right? And I can just pull up Meetup and there's 50 different meetups going on, from startup battlefields to some let's make a drone right now and fly like food across the city, to like we're gonna talk about Python, or just there's so many different things, and it's every day there. And so I think in Ukraine no one has quite captured that yet. I think UnitCity is the perfect place to capture it and venue it, because I don't think the developers here maybe are just not as social. Because I notice in our office, a lot of people aren't social outside of work.
You
So-
mean they're even more geeky than the geekiest?
Yeah, totally. They're
I kind of
definitely the
agree.
geekiest. Yeah.
I kind of agree with
Yeah.
that, actually. I kind of love it, Tatiana.
I would like to continue these futuristic questions and ask about injustice. In case of the mistake robotics or AI makes, how to defend a human being?
Or who's in charge?
Yeah,
Yes.
or who's
Probably.
responsible?
Yeah, who's responsible?
Who's responsible? That is a great question, and I don't know if I have a specific answer for it, but this is also a problem with. We can use an example: driverless cars. Okay.
Oh, yeah. An
Perfect
accident.
example.
That's
okay.
a good one.
Who is guilty?
Who's guilty? Was it the driver? Was it the car? Was it the company that made the car? And so, I've thought about this a lot because we get asked these questions too about our robots. Like, if your robot hits someone, who are you responsible? Are we responsible? All of these things. And what I've seen in industry practice is usually it's the owner's fault. But then that owner has, it could be the manufacturer's fault, right? But then you have back to this intent issue, right? Was it the robot's intent to do this? Was it not to do this? And it's really hard to gauge who should really be responsible. And I think this is in robotics, especially like driverless vehicles. We're getting into a lot of automated delivery on sidewalks now and things like this. A drone delivery, right? All of these things. It's a fundamental problem that needs to be solved. And I don't think anyone has quite figured out who should be responsible because no one actually wants to be responsible, right? Yeah.
There's no consensus in the society right now on this topic.
But maybe there's no answer.
I don't know.
Maybe it's one of those questions. There's a really cool show. I don't know if you saw it. Well, I don't know. Called The Good Place.
I have seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so The Good Place is a show where it's after you're dead. And you arrived. So you're dead, and you arrive in what you believe is the good place. But you realize that you were not so nice. So you're not really supposed to be there. And so there's a few characters that are like, but I was not nice. Why am I in the good place? I should be in the bad place. And then it's a very long show, and it's amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah.
There is an episode, though, where they have that philosophical question that was, in fact, a very old philosophical question. You're the driver of a trolley. And the trolley can go on the right or on the left. On the right, there's a family. You're going to kill the family. On the left, there's a worker. You're going to kill the worker. How do you choose what is the right decision? But in fact, you realize in the show that there is no right decision. It's about your conscience. It's about, and it's The Good Place. The Good Place on Netflix. It's a good one, guys. Right?
I don't want to stop.
Yeah, we don't want to stop, but you know what? It's
Is that a wrap up?
Yeah, it's
Already.
It's time.
Time to.
And so now we since our previous episode, we decided to change the name of a rap, and we call it UnitCity.
Umnichki. Do you
Umnichki.
know?
Do you know what
on the
means
word?
UnitCity?
No.
Tatiana.
How can we translate it?
I know, and we don't know. how
Someone
to-
who is doing well.
No, there's no
really.
direct translation. Smart ass, or I don't know. It's not the right word for umnichki. I don't know. It's
So,
just
umnichki,
smarty.
Tatiana.
Umnichki. Yes. In this blog, we are asking our guests to praise someone from the tech field, someone from Ukrainian startups, or geeks, maybe engineers.
Who is inspiring you? An UnitCity. That's a good one, right?
That's a good one.
Andrei's like, I can't think of anyone.
Well, I'm thinking like,
Doesn't have to be Ukrainian, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
No limits, but here.
no limits.
I was thinking someone you've met here.
I've honestly, this sounds super cliche, but honestly, my team in Ukraine, all of them inspire me every day. Because I've never,
But that's good.
super cliche.
But that's cool.
But
I like it.
I worked in the U.S. in a lot of different teams, and I would come and work with them, and you just don't. It feels more like a job, right? But the guys here that we've assembled, they just always are motivating me to be crazier with my ideas, because I give them the craziest ideas, and I'm like this. I'm thinking in my mind like this is impossible, and then I'll give them this impossible deadline too. They hate me for it, by the way, but they actually do it, and then I'm like, well, I just didn't give them a hard enough task, I guess, or maybe we could take this to an even like more impossible level, like how we developed our product called Core that does all this thinking and interweaving of neural networks. And it's just, I go into work every day working with these guys, and there's nothing I think that motivates me more than that, because just seeing how they take.
Well, next time we have to invite them all to the podcast, right? And that could be fun.
I figured
that have never been done before, like a podcast with 100 guests.
Yeah.
That'll be
that's
cool.
like a crowdcast.
A crowd.
Yeah, it makes it a crowdcast.
And now we have a new term. Andrei, what is your rap?
I don't know. I guess Andrew, you're a team and you are on a mission, and that's why it just doesn't feel like it's a job. And we talked about this thing before. It is really great, and it is the top thing that matters, being on a mission. So I would just advise everybody to find your mission and execute on it, and from that point on, your life will feel like it's almost like paradise, because
Right.
you won't feel pain, you won't feel frustration.
Yeah.
Of course, those feelings will come on a regular basis, but it won't matter because you will have something greater ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's not a job, it's life.
Yeah.
Tatiana?
And I would like to thank you for this interesting conversation, and would ask to invent something like a duvet cover changer in robotics. Because I
that's a
personally
problem. That's a
hate,
problem.
You're not the first person to
I
ask me for that.
hate to change things, the blanket, then you have
Like the
that
sheets.
linen.
Yeah.
Please invent something. And
That's
you will make happy a lot of people.
That's a really good one, actually. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is
well,
it hot to
So I was actually asked this question 6 months ago by an executive of a hotel chain. The same question. They
They're
said,
struggling,
Yeah, they said, can you change the sheets on a bed? And so it's an extremely hard task. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but
I think
maybe it'll get
with your
figured out.
team, it's really
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, probably.
This is a hard task for them.
I haven't
In
asked
case
them
you
about
worried.
this
And
yet,
what
but-
is deadline?
Yeah, that's the big thing that I'll be asked. What is the deadline for this? Yeah.
And well, on that note, it's the end of this podcast. Don't forget to like, to share, to comment. Please stay safe, curious, and always passionate. Diakuyu, and see you very soon. UnitCity.